What up, watch peeps? Sorry if the content has been slow. It's summer, the kids are home, it's noisy, but also I've been having full-on hot girl summer. I just got back from a burn, which was the last of 4 back-to-back trips, and now I have nothing to look forward to. So less content and it's more shitty. Go me! So last week we looked at a $1,200 watch, and in true chillinwitwatches fashion, today we'll be looking at an $80 watch because that is how I roll. All right, let's get to it. I'm Pete, and Hot Girl Summer is over. Wrist check. I am wearing the Smith's Everest Gilt in 36 millimeters. I'm messing around with different bracelets on this thing. This is the Dakota, I don't know what they call it, Warrington or something, and its end links actually fit perfectly. And I think that two-tone looks pretty cool. I might try and get a Jubilee version of this. I wish it had 2 more millimeters of taper, but not too bad. It looks pretty cool. But what we're here to look at today is this Pagani design. Now, packaging is not really a highlight, nor should it be when we're looking at budget watches. We want every penny to be put into the watch, so this is fine. And what we've got here is, well, I got a polishing cloth, which is pretty sweet, and a hang tag that fell out. But what we're here to see is this Tiffany blue dialed Pagani BB36 homage, and it is a super fun watch. Besides its Tiffany blue color, it also comes in like a sunburst kind of deeper blue. There's black and silver dials as well. Size, like I just mentioned, 36 millimeters, although it is actually a little bit bigger than that. We'll take a look at that in just a second. Price-wise, normally these float in the $100 range, but if you're vigilant and you watch for a sale, you can pick them up for about 80 bucks. Taking a closer look at the dial, you'll see this particular model has both the logo and Pagani design text at 12 o'clock. I've noticed on some of their newer models, they're foregoing the text and doing just the logo at 12 o'clock, which I think looks great. It's a very clean design. Other than that, all they have is the 2 lines of text at 6 o'clock. Now, this Tiffany blue dial is a no-date version, but all the other colors are date versions, and they have a date window at 3 o'clock. The markers on here are your standard sticks and circles with a triangle at 12 o'clock, but they are really nice, clean silver surrounds, and it looks like thickly applied lume, which we will take a look at the end of the video. We have a black printed minute track around the outside, which is very nicely spaced. And the hands are also matching silver surrounds in your snowflake design, which is, of course, true to the BB36. And all of that sits underneath a nice flat sapphire crystal. We have a fixed, smooth bezel on this model, and as you can see, it is fully polished at all the angles. There's no brushing on it whatsoever. The case on this one, well, the case is your very basic oyster case profile, but it is a great size. It's very thin. The finishing is perfectly fine. There's no polished chamfers running along the edges, but that is not something I expect in this price range. What we have are polished case sides with brushed top of the lugs. The crown is a great size at 6 millimeters. Anything bigger than that would be too much for this size of watch. It is signed, you'll see, with the Pagani logo there as well. The case back, pretty cool to get a display case back in an NH35 watch. Not so much for the movement, but because it is still quite thin. More people need to figure out how to make NH35 watches this thin. But if you are new to watches, you will appreciate a display case back regardless of what movement is inside. You can see here we have solid end links, and they are female as well, and they match up to the case really well. No problems getting them in and out, despite the fact that there does not have drilled lugs. The strap is 20 millimeters at the case, has a 2 millimeter taper down to 18 at the clasp, but as we can see here, it does use screws, and they are nice big 1.4 millimeter screws, super easy to use and size. I think I took out 3 links to get it to fit my 7¼ inch wrist, so no problem with, I would say, up to and over an 8-inch wrist. Now the clasp on it is a nice milled out scissor mechanism inside. The outer part of the clasp is maybe a little more robust and bigger than it needs to be for a watch of this size. If they manage to get this down to 16 millimeters, I do like the simplicity of the 2 push button, but smaller, this thing would be just about perfect. Here's how it's performing on the Timegrapher. This one seems to have settled in at about plus 10 seconds per day. Perfectly acceptable for an unadjusted Seiko NH35 movement. An amplitude of 260, also pretty typical for a Seiko NH35. They don't usually get up to the 300 like you would see with an ETA or a Sellita. Beater, that's a little high. Anything above 0.5 and I start to think, but you know what, 80 bucks, I truly don't care. On wrist, it seems to run just fine. Now the dimensions on this watch are pretty great. This is where, in my opinion, this watch really shines. And as I mentioned, it's not a true 36 millimeter case. It's actually a little bigger, coming in at 36.7 millimeters. And I'm starting to feel like 36.5-ish millimeters is my perfect size for a sport watch. Now, lug to lug comes in at a nice tidy 44.3, sorry for the smudges, and it is only 11.6 millimeters thick. That's fantastic for an NH35 powered watch. Has a 20 millimeter lug width. Going over some of the other specs, we are looking at a flat sapphire crystal. It has basic C1 Super Luminova. It's running the Seiko NH35 movement, and it has 100 meters of water resistance. On the OEM bracelet, sized for my 7¼ inch wrist, it comes in at 134 grams. Here's how it wears on my 7¼ inch wrist, and I think you can see from that top-down view, believe it or not, that extra 0.5 millimeter above 36 really makes a sports watch wear great for my particular wrist size. And you'll see at 11.5 millimeters, sits pretty close to the wrist there. And despite only having 2 millimeters taper, the bracelet is actually quite comfy. First up, here it is next to a true 36 millimeter watch, the Smith's Everest that I was just wearing. And you can see it does have a little more girth than that. And I think that little bit of extra size really makes a difference. Pretty close in thinness. Moving up again, now this is another one that is a little over 36. The Traska Commuter comes in at about 36.5 as well. And both of these are some of my favorite wearing watches, believe it or not. I love the thin bezel, larger dial of the Traska Commuter. It also makes it wear a little bit bigger than the smaller dial you'll find on the Pagani, but they both wear great. Again, thinness, pretty similar. And moving up a little bit more to the 38 millimeter Van Banner AO. Man, one of my favorite watches of the summer. You can see it is showing its 2 millimeter difference, especially with that larger dial opening, makes it a little more apparent. And, you know, I would say both of these probably wear pretty true to size. They're both quite thin as well. The Van Banner foregoing the bezel and giving you a nice case-only profile. All right, last up, let's take a look at the Lume.
Peep the Lume.
And there you go. It is not what I would call super bright Lume. Perfectly serviceable, perfectly acceptable at this price point. It's actually surprisingly good compared to some of my other Pagani watches where I feel like Lume was a complete afterthought. Not too bad on this one at all. So there you go, the Pagani BB36. It is honestly a fantastic little watch for the money, and if nothing else, it's a great mod base. Say what you want about Tiffany blue hype, but it really is a fun color, and an affordable watch like this is a great way to get it into your collection. All right, before I let you go, sneaker check, green check Vans, because summer. All right, that's it, I'm out. If it's not too much trouble, please like, subscribe, and come back next time. Peace.